Stop wasting time. Please stop it. Listen. In today's masterclass, we are going to be covering 10 incredible and actionable productivity hacks to take your real estate business to the next level. These tips, these hacks are designed specifically to help you regain control of your time, regain control of your calendar, to make sure that you are running your day and that your day is not running you. That's the only way to make sure that you hit your goals that you set out in the beginning of the year. Let's get into it. So I want you to imagine this. I know this is really far-fetched for most of you, okay? But I want you to just sort of just work with me, right? Let's just work on this a little bit. So I want you to imagine that you had an entire day planned out from beginning to end, and that everything was going to go exactly as planned. You had goals you wanted to hit. You wanted to do your lead generation, your bunker time. You had family planned, family time, lunch with with your spouse, with your significant other, whatever, right? You had all these things planned out, and then 8 a.m. came along and you got a text message, you got an email, right? You got a workplace chat, you got something dropped into your lap, and it completely pushed your day back, and that pushed the next things back, and that pushed the next thing and the next thing, and next thing that you know, your day was all out of whack, because by noon you'd had 5 more things that jumped on your plate that you weren't planning for, and your whole day is shot. Can anybody relate to that? Anybody out there, can you relate? If you can relate, say, I can relate. I completely understand. That's what today we're going to be talking about, and how you can get control of your day. You're never going to have to worry about those sorts of things happening ever again after today. But before we get into it, you're probably wondering, who the heck are you? How are you talking about this time management stuff? What qualifies you to speak to it, right? Well, by no means do I consider myself the be-all, end-all when it comes to time management, to productivity, to efficiency. But what I can tell you is a little bit about my history, my background, and my experience up until this point. So I've been in real estate for nearly 20 years at this point. And in that 20 years, I have been the top producing agent at 3 different brokerages, number 1, number 2, or number 3 at all 3 of those previous firms that I was at. From there, I went on to become a team manager, grew my team from about 6 agents to about 16 agents. At that point, I transitioned over to being a broker owner, started my own brokerage. From then, I got hired back into my previous firm as a state broker. It helped to grow that firm from 200 agents to nearly 700 agents across 5 different marketplaces. And that's when somebody told me about a little old company called eXp Realty. Came over to eXp Realty. They hired me as the designated broker, state broker for the state of Texas. We had over 6,000 agents, just over 6,000 when I came on board here at eXp. And again, as a designated broker, that means one sponsoring broker, 6,000 agents. And during my tenure, we grew from 6,000 to just a hair under 10,000 agents sponsored under my license here at eXp. What an incredible blessing, right? 72 different MLSs, every single market service area across the state of Texas. What an incredible blessing. Also had 15 managing brokers, 20 ASAs or admin support. We had compliance team. There was so much going on during my time as the broker role, but that's not all. So during that tenure, not only did we have nearly 10,000 agents, but as the broker, my name was on the bottom of over 100,000 real estate contracts, not to include all of the complaints and the violations and the lawsuits and all the fun different things that I had to deal with when I was the designated broker for the state of Texas. After a tenure there, the leadership team actually promoted me to now I get the opportunity to serve on the executive team for the growth department, overseeing California, our largest state, Texas and Florida, the next 2 largest states, and at the time, Georgia as well. So our executive team allowed me to oversee the growth in the largest and fastest growing states that we have. My gosh, right? By the way, at the same time, I had the incredible honor of serving on the board of directors for the 5th largest real estate association on the planet with about 30,000 members, called MetroTex, right? So between all of those things, oh yeah, and by the way, most importantly, I'm married to an incredible woman. I've been married for 15 years. She hasn't run out on me yet. And I also have 3 beautiful children, right? So out of all that as well, never missed a date night, and I can count on one hand the number of of sports events that I've missed. Usually that's like an EXPCon kind of thing. But I typically don't miss out on my kids' events either. Now, again, I'm not the beat all end all, but I figured a few things out. I think that's fair to say. So that's what I'm here for. Not to brag, not to boast, but to share with you how you can be as effective as humanly possible and how to take your business to the next level, how to get control of your time. Let's get into it. Number one, first and foremost, and by the way, all of these are titled number one. If you've ever read the book Relentless, you'll understand why. I titled, yes, these are 10 tips, 10 hacks, but I call them all number one. Why? Because if I went down and said number one, number two, number three, for some reason, folks tend to think that number 5 is not as important as number one, or number 8 is not as important as number 2. Well, guess what? That's not the case. When I'm giving you these 10 productivity hacks, okay, every one of them is equally important. It's going to be number one, number one, number one, number one, so you don't get it twisted. Every single one of these is equally as important. Again, read the book Relentless by Kobe Bryant's coach and Michael Jordan's coach and Dwayne Wade's coach, right? All these folks that have been coached by one guy, and he'll tell you that on his top 10 list of what he made those athletes do, there was a number one and a number one and a number one, because you can't miss any of them. So same thing here. Let's get into these hacks. First and foremost, let's talk about resources. Now, there are a few resources that I'm going to recommend that you get a hold of, that you read. Again, I've read all of these with everything that I have had going on in the last 20 years. My goodness gracious. I have sought out from the mountains of Himalayas down to the deepest depths for the best tools, the best tricks, the best hacks that I can find on time management, on efficiency, on leverage, and on these things. So I'm going to give you just a few resources and the best that I've been able to find. The first one is a book called Buy Your Time Back. Okay. Buy Your Time Back. Now, I recommend that one because Buy Your Time Back really talks about your time per hour, right? Or $1 per hour that you're actually worth. So to save you, yes, read the whole book. But one of the key takeaways there is to calculate your yearly income. You're going to divide that by the number of hours in a work week. Okay. The number of hours in a work week. Now, when you do that division, you do that little math problem, that's going to show you how much your time is worth. Once you figure that piece out and you know how much your time is worth, you are going to realize that, man, I could actually pay someone to do this and it's costing me to be doing it myself, right? So if it's any sort of task that you could pay someone to do, that they would do it for less than your average $1 per hour, you need to be paying that person to do it, right? So whether it's cooking, going to the grocery store, right, all those types of things, can you pay someone less than you could be earning doing what it is that you do? So that's one of the key things to take out of that book. The next one is called 15 Secrets That Successful People Know About Time Management, Kevin Cruz. So that one is an incredible book as well. A lot of the things that we're going to be talking about are really coming out of that book. That's one of my absolute favorites, specifically on the topic of proactive versus reactive, on time blocking, and on sort of being just so intentional on how you're spending your time. So I definitely recommend that one. The next one is The Ultimate Sales Machine. I highly recommend The Ultimate Sales Machine. Get that one. Half of the book is actually dedicated to efficiency, to productivity, and to effectiveness. I cannot recommend that enough. This is one that when I first came over, remember, I came from being a state broker. Okay. I was in 5 markets. I thought I was a big deal, right? I was in 5 markets, had almost 700 agents, right? I thought I was a big deal. And then EXP came a knocking. I came over to this incredible company and went from managing 700 agents to now managing over 6,000 agents, right? So it was a brain buster for me. Like, how do you do this? And then we were growing and growing and growing every day. So I found myself really, really struggling, and everything that I thought I knew about time management went out of the window when I more than 10x the number of agents I was responsible for. I will give you the best principle that I got out of that book. And again, this is an absolute game changer for you, right? Write this down, highlight it, take a picture of it, get a tattoo of it, right? Whatever you need to put it on social media. You cannot do everything. Write that down, underline it, and highlight it. You cannot do everything. That's the biggest principle I took out of The Ultimate Sales Machine. You will always have things on your to-do list. And that was such a freeing moment for me. It was such a freeing revelation to me. And I've shared that with every leader I've ever worked with. Once you are able to cast off of your shoulders the weight of always having a completely empty to-do box and a completely empty email and a completely empty voicemail box and a completely empty chat, it is never going to happen. It is, even if you try, even if you give 1000%, it is never going to happen. So when you know that and you can accept that and sort of breathe that into your heart, into your spirit, and you realize, hey, listen, I'm never going to get everything done. It's not going to happen. Then you're free to decide what are the things that you can do. So you take a breath and say, okay, I cannot do all these things. There's just too much to do, right? I cannot do all of it, but I can do the most impactful things. So then it becomes an exercise of not feeling overwhelmed, but being in control and being able to choose which things get done, because those things have the biggest leverage. Huge takeaway from that book. So I highly recommend it. And so this book really opened the door, opened a lot of locks that were in my mind in terms of what was possible, and helped me get to that next level of being able to effectively manage my time, manage myself, and manage goals, right? So I highly recommend that one. Ultimate Sales Machine. It is a game changer. Also, 4-Hour Work Week. That's another one. So right, one of the key concepts of the book, Tim Ferriss wrote that one. So the framework there is, if you went into your doctor's office and your doctor told you, listen, you're only allowed to work 4 hours a week. If you work more than 4 hours a week, then you are going to drop dead, right? That would change your perspective on work, right? That would change your perspective on what's important, what's not important, what can be delegated, how you can outsource, how you can leverage, all that kind of stuff. It's really more of a mental framework that I love out of that book. So I highly recommend that you get 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss as well. And then finally, Eat That Frog. This is one, it helped me a lot when I was, really early on, but some of the key concepts carry through no matter where you're at. So when you talk about eating that frog, you may have heard that. That's an old Mark Twain thing, but that's something that Brian Tracy really brought to the forefront in the book, Eat That Frog. So I want you to take a look at that one if you get a chance as well. But those are really great books. Don't tell me that you don't have time to read books on time management, right? I don't have enough time to read a book on time management. Come on, y'all. Get the book, read it. We're going to talk about how to create some more time. But before we do that, I want you to know what to do with some of that time. Okay. So let's go deeper. Number one, recalibration. I call this a recalibration of the brain. So many times we think that we don't have time, when in actuality, we have way more time than we think. So this is a little trick that I utilize to sort of reframe my brain when I'm sort of running up against it and feel like I don't have enough time. I call this the 1 minute sort of visualization, time visualization. So what I want you to do, and anyone that knows me, any class that I've ever taught, any sort of session like this, training session, masterclass, what I'm doing, I always want to make sure that you're involved. You're not just sitting there listening to me talk and yap, right? I want to involve you in the process. So this is going to be the first exercise. When I say go, I want you to push pause. Okay. I want you to pause this video. And then what I want you to do is to take out your clock. I want you to take out a timer. It can be a timer that you have. It can be your phone. It can be your watch, whatever you got. And I want you to just close your eyes. And I want you to open them when you think that 1 minute has passed. Okay, so you're going to hit pause, and then you're going to take a look at your phone, your watch, your timer, whatever you got, and then just close your eyes. And then I want you to open your eyes once you think that 1 minute has passed. Okay, go do that now. All right, so I want you to be truthful. Okay, I want you to be truthful. I want you to drop into the chat how many times you opened your eyes, right? How many times did you think that a minute had passed and it hadn't even been a whole minute yet? Right? That's absolutely incredible. A lot of times we misperceive how much time we actually have, or how much time it's going to take to do something, because we have a sort of skewed mindset about how much time actually is in a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or what have you. But hopefully that little exercise helped you sort of realign your brain to understand how much time you truly have. So the next thing I want you to do, this is where we get the I want you to go to your phone. I want you to look and see how much time, how many of those minutes, right? That big long minute that you just had there. I want you to go into your settings and I want you to check out how much time you've been spending on these apps. Okay. I want you to go to your screen time. I want you to see how much time you've been spending doing different things on your phone, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, social media, YouTube, whether it's Google, whether you're checking emails, right? Your phone will actually show you how much time you've been spending on certain tasks. So now that you know how long a minute is and what you could have done during that time period, look and see how much time you've been wasting. Okay, hit pause and do that and come right back. Wow. Wow. So how many of you, and again, I'm not going to ask you to be honest because I know you probably won't. That's okay, right? But if you found some time, just drop into the chat, say found some time, right? Found some time. The time that you could have been doing and moving forward towards your goals and that you felt like you didn't have. Now, if you feel like you have some time, say I found some time. All right, cool. Let's move on. Now that we have recalibrated our brain, now that we know how much time is in the time that we have, now we need to understand just some overall principles of time management and productivity and effectiveness. One of the general principles is this: wake up early. Wake up early. Again, as we're talking about, hey, how do I find more time? Where do I get some more time? Well, guess what? If you're waking up at 8 a.m., okay, and we slide that dial back and get you waking up at 6 a.m., guess what I just found for you? I just found 2 hours for you. And guess what? If we slide that clock even back a little bit more and you get up at 4 a.m., that's when I get up, by the way. You get up at 4 a.m. Guess what I just found for you? I found another 4 hours. You were waking up at 8 a.m. Now you're waking up at 4 a.m. You just found 4 hours in your day. And now you see how much time is even in 1 minute. Imagine getting back 4 hours of your day. Absolutely incredible. So I already heard some people moaning and groaning and yawning and said, oh my God, I can't get up at 4 a.m. Don't worry. I got you. I got you. Listen, there are so many tools, so many tricks. I don't think anyone is truly a morning person, right? At least I'm not. Right. So I'm not a morning person, but I still get up actually a little bit before that. I get up around 3:50-ish, 3:45 every morning. How do I do that when I'm not a morning person? Simply put, I have structured my environment to force me to get up, right? To force me to get up. Number one, go to bed early, right? So I usually get to hit the bed around 10, 11 o'clock, right? To make sure I'm getting a good 5-6 hours of sleep, which is all I tend to need nowadays. But what you want to do is you got to structure your brain for what works with you. That piece you will start to get used to. But if you got to take some melatonin, right, to make sure you get your REM cycles in, if you got to, again, whatever you need to do, keep the bedroom nice and cool, that helps. Again, look at the studies, look at all the different research that's been done, but there's a lot that you can do to ensure that you get good quality sleep in a period of time, right? So you want to have a few REM cycles during your sleeping session, because it is important to get your rest. That's another sort of productivity hack or a productivity mind frame, is to make sure that you're getting enough rest. Your brain operates very similar to a computer, just like you wouldn't let your computer run for days and days and days without letting your computer get enough restart time or downtime before you start running into those runtime errors, as they're called. Guess what? Your brain hits a lot of runtime errors too if you're not getting enough rest. So you want to make sure you're getting efficient enough rest to be able to operate at the highest level. But guess what? It's not as much as you think, right? It's not as much. You don't need 10 hours of sleep, 12 hours of sleep a day. Okay. You're not a house cat. Come on now. So that said, you want to slide that time back and give yourself some more time. Now, what can you do to sort of gear yourself up and lean yourself into success? One of the things that I recommend is your alarm clock. Okay. So what I recommend is an actual alarm clock. Okay. You're going to sit that not next to the bed, not your phone. If you use your phone, it ain't going to work, right? You put your phone next to the nightstand. I promise it's not going to work for you, because what's going to happen is you're going to reach over, you're going to hit that button that says snooze or cancel, and then you're going back to bed, right? So what I recommend, if you're going to use a phone, it works fine. But what you can do is phone alarm clock's preferable. You're going to put it on the other side of the room. Okay. You don't plan to wake up early in the morning. You plan the night before. Right. So what you want to do is the night before, you want to put your phone on the charger, but the charger is now way over on the dresser or way over on the other side of the room, and loud as it can be, right, to force you to get up and get out of the bed and go across the room and then turn off the alarm. OK. And then by that point, you're already up. It takes more effort to get back in the bed than it does to go on about your day with your goals. So I highly recommend that piece. Now, I tried that at the beginning. It worked for a while until my wife, as I told you, I'm happily married. I was not happily married when I started this. So what I would recommend at this point, if you have a spouse, you have a significant other sort of in the bed with you, I now use an Apple Watch. So what I recommend is using an Apple Watch that it will start to buzz, start to vibrate, and just wake you up, right? Because my wife did not appreciate that when it was going off across the room and sort of waking everybody up. So that said, That's what I highly recommend, is using a some sort of watch. Like I said, I use an Apple Watch. And you can also, another tip to this is ensure that you have set the alarms up to go off on a recurring basis. So I said I get up at about 3:45, then I got an alarm that goes off at 3:50, then 3:51, then 3:52, then 3:58, right? Then 4 o'clock, right? So you want to make sure that it continues to go off over and over, so that, again, you have to set yourself up for success. Know thyself, and to thyself be true, right? So if you know that you're the kind of snooze person that's going to hit snooze, then you have to get that leverage on yourself and make sure that you are creating an environment for yourself to win. Right. The next piece that I recommend is putting your running shoes or your work shoe, like whatever it is, when you swing your feet out of the bed, make it easier to hit your goals than not to. Right. So when I go to bed, as an example, like I'm wearing my gym shorts, right, and I have my gym shirt right next to the bed. So when I swing out, I got my gym shoes right there, and I'm already wearing my gym shorts, and my gym shirt is right next to me. So it's like I might as well get it. And I got to get up anyway. So that you can, again, get that leverage on yourself to make it easier to do the things that you should be doing, as opposed to easier not to, right? Get that leverage on yourself, trick yourself. All right. The next overall principle is the 6-day work week. All right. Now, I know you guys are real estate agents for the most part. Don't have to tell you about that. We could probably skip over this, but I will touch on it. I highly, highly recommend, and anyone that you talk to as well is going to recommend that 6-day work week. Okay. 6-day work week. Why is that important? Because even as agents, we know it's a nights and weekends business for the most part, but a lot of agents will try to structure either 7-day work weeks, right, where they work Saturday and Sunday, as we know, because you're agents, right? You got to be available when your clients are. But then they also will work every single day of the week as well. Okay. That's not recommended, right? If God himself needed to take a day off, right, you certainly do too, right? God says 6 and 1. Listen, I'm not arguing with him. 6 and 1. I recommend taking a day off, again, to refresh, to retool your mind. I promise you, your clients will be okay. If you take a Wednesday as your day off to be with your family or to decompress or do whatever it is that you need to do to recharge, take that weekly day to recharge yourself. You need it. I promise you, right? And if you're working out every day, take a day where you don't work out. Okay. Whatever it is that you need to fully recharge, you got to take that day. Okay. It's so important. And the flip side is every other day is a work day. Every other day is a work day. 6 days a week, you got to hit it hard. And a lot of agents, if you really calculate how much time that you're putting in, you're only really putting in like a 5-2, right? You're really only putting in like a 5 on, 2 off kind of schedule. Listen, it's like Jim Rohn said, heck, if God would have thought of 5 and 2, maybe he would have made it 5 and 2, right? Maybe you thought of something he didn't. But guess what? I'll take his advice. I'll take his word for it. He said 6 and 1. I'm going to do 6 and 1. The next overarching principle, all right, is going to be 60 to 90 minute sprints. There's so much research on this, again, and I don't want to get into the details yet. We're going to go into that later, but just know that there's been so much research, so much science-based evidence that supports the fact that the human brain is really set up to go on 60 to 90 minute sprints. Same thing, by the way, when you're sleeping. We talked about the REM cycles and things like that. There's 60 to 90 minute cycles that your brain is really meant to go through. Okay. So when you're structuring how you're going to structure your workday, it's recommended to just have these 60 to 90 minute time blocks, as we call them. And we'll talk about how they really go back and forth between proactive blocks and then reactive blocks and then recharge blocks. So you're really going back and forth between these three: proactive, reactive, and recharge blocks. And these are going to be 60 to 90 minute windows. And we'll talk about how to structure those as we get in deeper here. Okay, let me show you how I actually do my time blocks. Okay, so I'm going to show you a sample on how I will typically go about time blocking my day for the week. Okay, so let's take a look here. I'm going to open up. This is just a standard iCloud calendar. This is the default one. And I'll talk about later on in this training how important it is to sort of stick with one ecosystem or the other. You can do it on Google as well. If you're Android or you want to use your Google Calendar, that's fine. But I'm going to show you how to do it on iCloud. Okay, so what happens is if you go to your cloud calendar, remember we talked already about how important it is to add some additional hours in the day by waking up early. So as you can see here, if I'm going to wake up at 4, I'm going to put my first block in here. Okay. My first block is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to say it's a 2-hour block. I know we've talked already about ensuring that it's a 60 to 90 minute. Okay. But we also have that quick morning routine that we have to get in. We also have to get the coffee and get the stuff right and sort of structure our work environment up for success. So I'm going to make that first block a couple hours. And I'm going to say that this is going to be a first proactive block. All right. So that's my first proactive block of the day. That's me waking up. That's me taking my reflection time, gearing up, getting the coffee ready, doing the whole thing, right? Making the shake, and then checking off the list, right? Checking the bank account, check the weight, check the different things that you got to check off for the day, and then you make your way into your workstation to sort of start working on your first task of the day. As we already talked about as well, the most important task is what you do here. So I recommend for your time blocks, you name them specifically what you intend to do during that time period. So in this case, this is going to be our MIT, or the most important task. And remember, we're defining that most important task as if I don't complete anything else today, if this is the only thing that I could get done today, it's a win. It will move me forward. It will take me towards my goal. This is the highest leverage use of my time. So this is your MIT, your most important task that goes up front. And by the way, you knock that out. Now, the next block that I typically will recommend here is going to be a recharge block. So your recharge block, as we talked about, remember, we're doing these in 60 to 90 minute windows. So I would make this block here my first recharge. And for me, I'm going to put also the gym. Right, so this is what we're doing here. So this is gonna be my first recharge block. So that's gonna be hit the gym. That's going to be, do your cardio session, your weightlifting session, and your shower. You knock all this stuff out, and again, according to this timetable. Okay, and then I'll take my first block here, and this block is going to be another 90-minute block. But this is going to be important, right? Because this is going to be your first reactive block. Okay, so this is your first reactive time block that you're going to have. And what goes into your reactive time block, the first one, and again, I'm always recommending notating exactly what this is going to be. So what I first recommend is going through and saying, okay, email. And maybe if you have time, you'll also do your messages. All right, so that messages, that can be Slack messages, that can be your workplace chat messages, that can be text messages. If you have time for those things, these are the times that you want to jump on top of those things. All right, knock those things out of the way. Now, next up, I recommend another proactive block. Okay, so this is going to be your next proactive block that you're going to plug in. And then again, you're going to indicate, what is that MIT? Are you done with the MIT from above? And it can be number one, or you can move on to the next one once you're done, right? So you usually have maybe two, maybe three big things that really move the needle in your business. Decide what are those most important things, whether it's lead generation for most of y'all out there as real estate agents, but whatever that the big honking thing is that you're trying to steer away from, by the way, that's usually the thing that needs to go into your MIT. That's usually the thing that you don't get done. And that a lot of times we try to stay busy with a bunch of busy work and doing other things. So focus on the MITs, get those knocked out. And here's something cool as well, because remember, we talked about already the fact, and as you're looking at this calendar, you added additional time to your day. So most of your colleagues, most of your peers, most of your competitors too, aren't even up until this time. Whereas you have already knocked out your most important task by the time the day even started, right? You've also knocked out some of your recharge time. So you're hitting it, you're ready to go by the time most of your competitors, most of even your colleagues are even getting out of bed, rolling out of bed, trying to figure out what they're going to do. So that's what I love. Again, you added some additional time, added some additional leverage as well. So you just simply go back and forth and kind of structure your time throughout the day. Here's another sample of something that you might want to do. You say, and we talked about already how important it is to put our timetable in for our recharging and lunch. So I'm going to put recharge. And then we're going to call this lunch. Oops. And we're going to call this lunch. Okay. Now, this is so important. Remember, schedule that. I cannot emphasize how important that is to make sure that you're scheduling that time for yourself, because otherwise you will miss it, and that will begin to accumulate to the point where you will face that burnout, right? So I recommend that, or you start to make poor decisions on what you want to eat, and that also impacts productivity. So that's what you do there. After that lunch, typically, you're ready to rock, depending on what you ate. Sometimes you can be ready to go to sleep, but depending on what you ate, you should be in a more charged up state after you eat. So that's another great time for a proactive block. So I'll put a proactive. You put a proactive block in here, okay? And then now maybe you've done number two. your MIT, 2, and then we go to number 3, maybe, right? So just the 2 to 3 things. And imagine what your business looks like if you actually took the time on a timer, right? You had a time on task and you're actually deploying it on a fully focused mode to 3 things in your business, whether it's lead generation, whether it's agent attraction, whether it's servicing your clients, like whatever those things are, improving your lead systems and your lead flows and your CRM follow, things like that, that you're truly, truly focused on. If you have deployed several hours a day just to those things, how much farther would you be in your business? Come on now. So that's what we're doing there. And we plug that time in. And again, you just kind of go back and forth. Now, one of the things I like to do as well is schedule some time towards the end of the traditional workday, let's call it. And I'll put in here that this is prep time. So you put in there prep time, and your prep time is going to be where you're sort of rounding out the day. Okay. So you go back and look at all those things that were in there. And then you go back and clean all those things up that were kind of accumulating throughout the day, so that you don't carry them with you. You don't take them with you overnight. So I recommend that you take some time towards the end of the day. And I say end of the traditional day, because a lot of times that's where you need to get a hold of other people in other departments where they're getting ready to leave, or if it's your title company or your lender and things like that, where they're getting ready to punch out, you need to make sure that you kind of close that gap before they leave. So I recommend a time here. You could also call this almost reactive time. This is going to be reactive time as well, but I'm calling it clean up and prep. Okay. So, and that's what you do, right? So you go back and forth between proactive time and reactive time. And this would be another reactive block. So, and then as we mentioned already, okay, as you're going back and forth, you're actually naming some of these things. So your reactive blocks next may be phone calls that you need to follow up on. And we'll call that return calls. All right. And because of the nature of phone calls, that tends to be a little bit of a longer block. So we can kind of plug that one out and make it a little bit longer, because we know sometimes it's phone tag and sometimes you're trying to get a hold of people back and forth and so on, right? So we'll kind of make that a little bit of a longer block. So this is what a typical day might look like for you. And look at how much time, though, you've added and how much time you're actually taking towards the deployment of your goals. All right. The next thing we want to do, of course, is make sure that we have some more recharge time in there for yourself. So we want to go through and make sure we got some recharge time in here. Maybe this is time having dinner with the family or things like that, right? So this may be another set time period where you want to recharge. And then we'll say family. All right, so now we have another block in here where we are looking to make sure that we get that downtime where we're actually spending time on the things that really, really matter. This is important. I've learned this from a mentor a while back. You have glass balls in your life, and then you have rubber balls in your life. It's important to always make sure that we're maintaining that balance. A glass ball that you're holding in your hand, and think about how fragile that would be. Then you got a rubber ball. If you drop it, guess what? We're constantly in the state of trying to juggle those balls. But that rubber ball, if you drop it, it hits the ground, but it bounces back up. Okay. Think of that like your work life. You can drop it, but you can pick it back up. You can drop it, you can pick it back up. You can always put work on hold. But that glass ball, that's your family time. That's your recharge time. That's the things that are important to you. They're more important than anything else. And when you drop that glass ball, it can break. And when it's broken, there ain't no putting it back together, right? So make sure that you're prioritizing that glass ball time over the rubber ball time, okay? And that's what your calendar should look like as you're going through and making it into this proactive versus reactive time blocks. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, the last thing, of course, that you're going to notice is, and I recommend, say, a wind down, right? You can have a couple recovery blocks here. So I'm going to put a wind down block here. We call it wind down. So you got your wind down block, and then because you're going to sleep at 10. Why are you going to sleep at 10? Because you know that you're up at 4. My gosh, right? So, and you can see this bleeds all the way back over to the next day. So what we've done here is we've really structured your almost like a perfect day. Now, one thing that you may want to do here, and again, this is up to you, right? Well, it depends on what you want to do for work and what you consider pleasure. But time like this is great, like a social media time, and I would consider that reactive if you're responding to DMs and things like that. So this can be another reactive block. Call it social media. Okay, so this is what your day can look like, and I may even parse that out, right? So give yourself a little bit of buffer space in there. So this is a good example of kind of those proactive versus reactive back and forth. And you've also baked in a little bit of breathing room. You can go through and space these out a little bit too, just to give yourself even more breathing room in between tasks. But this is what it looks like, and going back and forth, and imagine how much you can get done. Now, the beauty is once you've done this one time, one day, all you have to do now is boom, hit duplicate. So check this out. Then you just drop it over to the next day. Then you just drop it over to the next day. I'll make that too long. There we go. So now all you got to do is duplicate it. Boom. Drop it to the next day. Boom. Drop it to the next day. Right? So this is how easy it is to plan out your entire week using this framework. And imagine again how much more productive that you can be with this methodology. And how much more structured your life is, and how much more you can get actually done and accomplished towards the deployment of your goals as you go through and just drop each one of these. All right, number one, start yesterday. Today's planning started yesterday. Today's success was already determined last night. Whether or not today was going to be a win, or whether or not, guess what, tomorrow's going to be a win is going to depend on what you do tonight. Every single evening, your task is to review your calendar for the whole week, right? Certainly for tomorrow, but also look at the entire week. What do you have coming up? This, if you don't take anything else away from this book, this one tip alone, by the way, all of these, that's why it's number one. Every single one of these tips will be an absolute game changer for you. I promise that. So if you only start doing this, you will see a huge lift in the amount of time and the amount of leverage that you're able to get over your life, over your business, and over the way that your day operates. Okay. So you're going to go, the last thing you do before you go to bed, I want you to line out and look at everything you got going. I want you to put your proactive blocks and your reactive blocks and your recharge blocks into your calendar. Okay. So your proactive blocks, that's going to be the things that are your MITs, right? That's your most important task. If you only get that thing done, that's what you put as your very first block, certainly. Okay. Every proactive block, you can get one. It depends on what your workday looks like. You can have one block or 5 blocks. I mean, however many you want, but you want to have a specific 60 to 90 minute window wherein you're only doing productive tasks. And that is the most important task. Okay. The task for which, if you only get that thing done, you will have moved your business forward. By the way, if you are a real estate agent, 9 times out of 10, 9.99 times out of 10, okay, what goes in that task is going to be lead generation. Lead generation is going to be what goes in your proactive block, in your most important task block. Okay. Then you put your reactive blocks in there. Okay. Because remember, what happens a lot of times is something drops on your calendar and blows your whole day up. Now on, you don't have to worry about something dropping on your lap and blowing your whole day up. Why? Because you're going to put it in your reactive block, which is what I'm going to show you a little bit later. Okay. So let's say that someone calls and they're ready to write an offer right now. Okay, great. That goes in your reactive block. It does not impact your proactive block. Okay, let's say you get that phone call from that seller and now they're finally ready to sell. Okay, that's still a reactive task, right? That's going to go in your reactive block. That's a phone call, that's a text message, that's an email. All those things are going into your reactive block. You don't have to panic. And again, once you have that free mindset of knowing, okay, I'm going to handle my most important task and it's in my proactive block, anything else that happens is freeing to know that you have time to handle it. You don't have to drop something on your lap while you're in the middle of a proactive block. That's the key. Okay. So that's all you're doing on the evening before. You're taking a look at the next day and then you're planning out how it's going to work proactive and reactively. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to take some time right now. I want you to press pause. I want you to go to your calendar, and in your calendar, I want you to create a new calendar, call it the time management calendar if you want, and then you're going to put in proactive blocks. You're going to put in there reactive blocks and a couple of recharge blocks. Okay. I want you to put that in there. That's time with your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your lunchtime, right? If your workout time, whatever that looks like for you, I want you to put those things into your blocks. All right. Number one, I call this success environments. Success environments. You have to make sure that your environment is conducive to you hitting your goals. Make sure that your environment is conducive. We talked about it already just on the wake up. Okay. So if you have medication, for instance, that you're supposed to take in the morning or at night, why not put that on the nightstand? Okay. You put that stuff right there on the nightstand. That way it's the last thing you pop, or if it's melatonin right before you go to bed or whatever, like, stuff you're supposed to put on, potions, lotions, and gels, right? All that kind of stuff. Keep it next to the bed, right? Same thing. You just sort of map out, what does your day look like? Do you go to the coffee pot next? Do you go to the refrigerator next, right? Where do you go at the bathroom? What can you put in these environments to help you achieve your goals, right? Do you need to have the scale right out in the middle of the bathroom floor, right? So that you can go there, go to the restroom, and then weigh in if you're supposed to be sort of on a weight loss, or if you're tracking your weight, whatever that looks like. Okay. What you want to make sure that you are setting up your environment so that it's conducive for your success. Same thing when you get to your office or your workstation. Is it clear or is it cluttered? Okay. Again, research after research, study after study has shown that folks are much more effective when they have a work environment that is conducive to their success. So again, if you need your coffee, it should be within arm's distance of you. Your water bottle should be within arm's distance of you. Your phone, if you're using that, right? Your mouse, your keypad, everything should be within one arm's distance of you. So you don't have to get up, you don't have to stretch, you don't have to reach, you don't have to get out of your seat, because all those things are distractive. The average professional is distracted every 11 minutes while at work. Every 11 minutes. And by the way, I know most agents are much more than that. Or I know I was getting distracted like every 2 or 3 minutes. That makes it so hard to get things done, right? You want to make sure that everything that you need is within an arm's distance. You don't have to get up during your block, okay? Remember that 60 to 90-minute block, that's where you're focused on making sure that you are not distracted. So you want to have everything within arm's reach. All right, now let's talk about focus. That's the other piece of making sure that your environment is conducive to your success. When there's a bunch of stuff that's out and distracting you, okay, that can be hugely distracting. And the number one distracting thing is, guess what? Your cell phone. So many professionals will tell you, hey, when I go into my bunker time, when I go into my focus block, I leave my cell phone outside the door. Okay. You can leave you don't have to have it right there. If your focus block is writing or emailing or creating a campaign or doing whatever that thing is, lead generation via Facebook or creating ads, whatever you're trying to do, sometimes you need to leave the phone outside. By the way, that phone is designed to do one thing and one thing alone, to distract you and to gain your attention, to get and to keep your attention. You can call it that, right? So if you have a device that is designed to get and to keep your attention, why would you ever want to have that in your workspace, in your area? Okay, get rid of it, toss it out, move it out of the way. Just as an aside, okay, my gosh, your phone, it should be on do not disturb at the very least. And it's interesting when you think about that phrase, do not disturb, okay? Because if you don't turn on do not disturb, literally every app, every notification, every person in the entire world can distract you, right? That your phone is almost acknowledging the fact that it exists to distract you, right? So I always, by the way, have do not disturb, and I recommend that you do the same, right? Keep do not disturb on your phone at all times, because otherwise you're literally giving everything and everyone permission to do what? Disturb you, quite literally, right? So leave the do not disturb. By the way, you can always make exceptions for people, right? Super important people that are in your life. You can exclude them from the do not disturb status, but every app, every single thing does not need a doggone notification. So by default, the settings should always be on do not disturb. Otherwise, again, you are giving permission for that thing to disturb you, right? So that's just an aside. Let's come back. So make sure that you have no distractions. Guess what? The most focused person is the person that is the least distracted, the person that has said no to the most things. So you got to decide, do you want to be that most focused person? I say absolutely. If you want to hit your goals, you got to stay focused. You got to stay keyed in. The only way to do that is to remove any distractions, whatever it is. If it's a light, if you got to close the curtains, if you got to close the blinds, right? Early in my career, like I loved being in like a closet. I love being in the closet, completely surrounded, nothing to look at, no cats or dogs walking by. It's just me and the task, me versus it, and I'm going to win, right? So structure your environment, whatever that means, so that you get to win. You don't have to worry about cars driving by or whatever it is, right? Make sure that it's you versus your bunker, you versus your task, you versus your ultimate goal. The literal definition of focus is saying no to as many things as possible. And by the way, what is a distraction? A distraction is simply a reason not to do something. Think about that. A distraction is a reason not to do something. You've got a task, you've got something that you have planned, you have something that you're trying to do, and that distraction says, hey, don't do that, do this instead, right? It's the lady in the red dress from the Matrix, right? It's like, hey, don't do that thing that you're really focused on. Look at this other thing, right? Don't do this, do that, okay? Don't allow these things to distract you, okay? Say no to everything except for the task at hand and set yourself up and set your space up to be conducive to that success. All right, number 1, your morning ritual. Throw it away. Throw it away, okay? Forget about your morning ritual. Toss it in the trash. Forget about it, right? It goes away forever. Put it in a black box in the bottom of the ocean, right? I'm just kidding. Only partially, right? Here's the deal about a morning routine or a morning ritual. And I know there's all kinds of books out there and like, okay, fuzzy duzzy stuff. That's cool. Here's what the most successful people will tell you from, and I don't want to say people's names, but like a lot of CEOs and a lot of people that are crushing it in terms of production, where you see, man, how can this person run 8 different multinational companies? Like, what in the world's happening? So when you want to know that, I'm going to tell you, they don't have a morning routine. Okay, I promise you, I've studied it for, I don't know, hundreds of hours of content that I've consumed and I've read and I've done. Trust me, one of the only common threads among every highly successful, highly effective, highly productive CEO is the lack of a morning routine. All right. Or the truncated morning routine. So if you have to have one, and that's cool. I do recommend a short morning routine, but you got to get in, get out and get to work. Okay. Wake up, have some caffeine, go to work. That's it. And a lot of people need I got to take an ice bath, and then I need red light therapy, and then I got to meditate, then I got to soak in the hot tub, and then I got, like, listen, man, it's funny because by the time some people get done with their morning ritual, it's already the afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, all right, I get it. So what I recommend, and again, I can speak for myself. You do what you need to do to get you in that space where you are highly effective, but it doesn't have to take all day. Certainly doesn't have to take all morning, right? You wake up, have your mindful moment, right? Whatever that means for you. A mindful moment, if that's prayer, that's meditation, that's sort of just reflection, gratitude, like whatever gets you in your heart, in that space, that's what you do, right? Do that. Doesn't take, 6 hours to do. For me, like I go in, I check my weight, I check my bank account, I check my calendar, check, and then boom, it's time to get to work, right? So that's the way I look at it. My morning routine, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. And again, some people have their thing, like you want to read, really reading a Bible or, kind of reading your books or reading whatever it is, journaling, like, hey, that's fine. Get in, get out, but ultimately get to work, because the time, when you look at the return on that investment and how much time you have and how much time is in 1 minute, as we showed you before, you could get a lot done in a 5 to 10 minute window, and you can use the rest of that time to be deployed against your goals. So as an example, like I wake up, I do my reflection, right? And I check my check boxes. Okay. I do those things. And then from there, I go right into work, right? I got my coffee or my pre-workout shake, and I'm just sipping on that, right? I'm sipping on my coffee, sipping on my pre-workout, whatever it is. And I'm hitting my first block of the day. Okay. I'm hitting my proactive block. And while I'm hitting that proactive block, I'm also caffeinating. So it's getting me geared up, getting me excited, getting me jumpy. And then by the time that block is over, that first proactive block, I've already got the itch, right? Some of y'all know, if you're on, if you take pre-workout, you know about the itch, right? So you start to get a little bit of itch. You start to get ready to go. You get a little jittery if you're doing coffee. And then I got to go hit the gym, right? Because now all of a sudden I got all this energy worked up and I'm on a stride and I'm in a flex, I'm in a zone, and then I go hit the gym, right? So that's my recommendation, or at least that's what works for me. Find what works for you. But the key is get going, get started ASAP. Number 1, okay? As I just mentioned, what are you doing during that first block? That first proactive block is the most important one. Remember, this may be the only one that you're able to do today. We know things blow up. We know things change. We know that plans, the best laid plans of men, right? So the reality is, we know that this may be the only block that you get, but guess what? That's okay. We said already at the very beginning, and what we've been learning from the books that I just recommended to you, right, is that you can't get everything, and it's very possible you won't get everything done today. So that's why it's so important to get up early and get that first thing done. To say that if I can only do this one thing, if I only get this one time block done today, today, it will move me and it will move my business. It will move things in the right direction. Okay. So work on the one or two things that move the needle the most, one or two things. And by the way, again, in most cases, we're talking about prospecting time for most realtors. Okay. But in some cases, hey, I may be focused on agent attraction, or I may be focused on a different aspect of my business, but whatever it is, if I only get that thing done today, then I will have made this day a success. Okay. So you're going to do that 60 to 90 minute sprint where you are fully focused on what it is you need to do. I highly recommend a timer. Okay. As I mentioned before, I throw my phone out there. I don't like the phone. What I do is a timer, and you can see there, you just start, and I like this one. It's a little bit fancy, right? Stainless steel magnet. It's kind of cool, but you just set your time. You set your time, boom, you hit your boop, and then it starts ticking, right? Your time's ticking away. So I find that to be useful. And again, as we have recalibrated our brain to really see how much time is in a minute, it's also good to have a visualization to help bring you back to focus, because my mind's like everyone else's. Sometimes it runs around. I'm a little bit distractible sometimes. So I like having that there. It sort of is counting down and keeping me focused, keeping me on task and on track. So that's what I recommend as far as time blocking goes and during your sprint. Okay, now here we go with the fun part, right? The reactive task. This is my promise to you. As I promised at the beginning, okay, you got something dropped on your lap. What do you do with it? This is the beauty of the way that this system works, where you've actually scheduled reactive time into your calendar. The beauty here is that no matter what happens, you know that you can put it over there and it will be there waiting for you, right? Right? That crocodile that dropped in your lap, you know where that crocodile is. You know where he'll be when it's time to go and get him. So whatever it is, you put those things into your reactive block, and then now we can talk about what to do with those things that are in our reactive block, okay? So first and foremost, write this down. Work from your calendar, not your to-do list. Work from your calendar, not from your to-do list. This is so key. This is so critical. Okay. The top and the most effective and productive leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives on the planet do not have a to-do list, right? Or if they have a to-do list, they only use it as a mechanism by which to fill their calendar. Okay. And I'm going to show you how I do this here in a moment, but a lot of folks don't even know that you can do this. So what you want to do during your reactive block, you will take anything that's on your to-do list. You use your to-do list almost like a note taker. Okay. So something pops up, boom, you put it on your to-do list. Something pops up, boom, put it on the to-do list, just so you have a list, okay? But at the next earliest opportunity, ideally in that reactive time block, or better yet, if it's in the evening, okay? We talked about in the evening, the last thing you do before you go to bed is to take a look at your calendar. You take your to-do list and you transition that to-do list and those emails into your actual calendar, okay? Put it on your calendars. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that here. Let's talk about how to transition some of those reactive tasks into your actual calendar, get them plugged in here. So what we have here, if you're familiar with the Apple ecosystem, this is your to-dos or your reminders, as it's called in the Apple ecosystem. But all that means is you've got a to-do number one, right? And then maybe a to-do number two, to-do two, and then like let's call that a right? Because something just dropped in your lap. Then you got a oh wow, and then you've got a oh my gosh. So these are things that have dropped in your lap that normally would completely blow your day out of whack, completely blow your calendar, right? And everything that you had planned for today, but not anymore, okay? Because as you can see here, I went ahead and filled out the calendar for the rest of the week. But remember, we got our first reactive block here starting at 7:30 on each day. So now when that to-do popped up, I know I can just drop it right here. Boom. And I already had a block planned for it. Now, handle the OMG thing first, right? Let's handle the OMG first. Boom. And it instantly goes right there. Now the to-do goes right there. Now the let's handle the too, because we got to handle those And then we know that we got another block up later where we have another reactive block. So we drop those things now into our reactive block area. So it literally can be that easy, right? So now all these things that used to knock your entire day off, you don't have to worry about them anymore, because now you can actually just plug them in. You use your reminders app as a note taker, reminding you that you got to take care of this thing. That's why it's called a reminder, right? It's a reminder to put it into your calendar. So as you can see, we are working not from a to-do list, but from a calendar. If it gets on the calendar, it gets done. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done. So many times, raise your hand, okay, drop a hand emoji in the chat. If you have a to-do list that is 10 miles long or 15 or 100 miles long, right? And I've been there too. Listen, I'm not judging. I've been there too. As I go down, you just add stuff. And by the way, a lot of stuff you get done, but you never go back up and check, right? And you're putting things on there 2 or 3, 4 times. Okay. I know the feeling of having that to-do list, and it gets so bad that sometimes you just don't even want to go look at it, right? You may just add something and not even go look and scroll back up. And then you have that guilt, right? That guilt's weighing on you, and it prevents you from even opening the to-do list, because you see all of the stuff that's in there, right? Oh my gosh, I should have done that. And I should have done this. I should have done that. Oh, I feel so guilty. I'm just not even going to look at any of it, right? That's normal. That's natural. That's human behavior. Okay. What I want you to do now, though, that's over and done with. From now on, all we're using the to-do list for is a note taker, and we schedule time to transition everything that's on the to-do list has to have a home, an eventual home in the calendar. Now on to one of my favorite hacks, one of my most favorite hacks when it comes to reactive time and how to do reactive time. This is something called a 4D analysis. Whenever you're going through your reactive block, okay, because we put everything off, we shoved all these alligators and crocodiles and all this bad stuff, or all these bombs, right? All this stuff, we shoved all these things over into the reactive time block. And now we're here, right? The time has come. So what you want to do is, you got all these emails that have piled up. You have all these phone calls that have piled up, all these text messages and so on, right? Slack messages and all that. So you got all this stuff in here. Okay. What you do is you're going to take a 4D look at everything. So the very first thing you're going to do is 4D. We call it delete, do, defer, or delegate. Delete, do, defer, or delegate. What does that mean? So the very first thing you're looking at is what can be deleted, aka archived. Right. So if it's an email, you're going to archive it. But most things no one needs to do. You don't need to take action on. Remember, and write this down too. No is the most powerful tool in time management. The word no is the most powerful tool. So as you're going through your email, delete, or archive all the way down for anything that does not specifically require you to do something with it, right? A lot of it's just FYI, or hey, you should know about this, or you're CC'd on something. Delete, archive, right? So you just run through those. Those are your deleted tasks, okay? Now, the next D is going to be for delegate. And by the way, when deleting stuff, you probably get rid of maybe 40% or more of the things that are in your inbox or in your emails and in your voicemails, right? Just by doing that. But the next one's going to be delegate. So when you're looking at delegate, the question here is, who else can do this? All right. Who else can do? In many cases, which person, which team, which department is better suited to deal with this task than me, right? Or in other words, who else can do this? So when you're going through, who can I delegate this to? Who can I delegate that to? Boom, 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 right? Do you have a VA? Do you have an assistant? Do you have an admin? Do you have the broker team, right? By the way, a lot of the stuff, hey, the broker should be handling this, or the title company should be handling that, or the mortgage company. This is really a mortgage question, right? So you should be deferring a lot of these things to your team. Hey, send this to the contractor. A lot of things that end up choking us up or eating up a lot of times are something that should be, or even more likely could be, and would be better served to be done by someone else. So always keep that in mind. Who can I delegate this out to? All right. So the next D is going to be do. Okay, just do it. Like Nike said, right? Just do. So this is a hard rule. Okay, anything, and now we know how long 1 minute is and what you can get done in 1 minute. Some of our brains were blown up when we realized, my gosh, look at all I could do in 1 minute. I want you to think about 3 minutes now. Anything that can be done in 3 minutes or less, do it now. Do it right now. Don't procrastinate. Don't wait. Do it right now. If it can be done in 3 minutes or less, and by the way, this is where AI can be hugely helpful as well, because not only do we now have a recalibration in our mind of how much time 1 minute actually is, much less 3 minutes, but when we add AI into the mix, so you can take a picture of it, you can take a quick screenshot of an email and then send it over to ChatGPT. Hey, give me a good response to this. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I'm thinking, right? And ChatGPT will come up with something beautiful in like 20 seconds. minutes, right? And then you drop that in there and you're ready to go. There's a lot of tools as well that can draft responses for you. Fixer AI is one. There's many different AI tools and things like that that are out there. We're going to touch on a lot of tools here later as well. But you want to utilize AI, utilize as many tools and things like that that you can do to make things happen within that 3-minute window. So with the advantage of AI or without it, right? If it's something that you can do in less than 3 minutes, do it now, check it off the list. Boom, that's done. Now, anything that is left over, you hit that last D. And there should be very, very few things. So again, let's say you got 100 emails that stacked up on you. That's typical of my day, right? If I've got a 2-hour time block, it's not uncommon for me to have 100 emails by the time I'm done with that 2-hour block. But when I go through and now I've deleted all the junk mail and the spam and the blah, 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 right? The CCs and things like that. I've deleted all those things. I'm probably down to about 40 emails, give or take, right? And then I take a look at the ones that I can defer out. Boom, 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 boom. I'm deferring those out to the specialists that are on my team that are better at dealing with those things, or that are their role is to deal with those things. Boom, I may be down to about 20, right? 20 or so by the time that I've deleted, by the time that I have delegated, and by the time that I've just done and knocked some of the stuff out that's easy to knock out. I may be stuck with maybe 20 emails now that I got to deal with, 10, 20. So if it's going to take me more than 3 minutes, that's where you transition over into the defer category. Defer, right? So defer means this thing is going to take me quite a bit of time, because even with AI, it's going to take me more than 3 minutes to do this. You are going to schedule that thing into your reactive time block. Okay. It goes into a reactive time block. You're going to take that thing, you're going to put it over there and know that it's something that you have to get done. So remember, we're working at your entire day works from your calendar. Okay. You run your life on your goals, but you run your day on your calendar. Run your day on your calendar. So if you know it's going to take you 20 minutes to get back to an email, sometimes it can take 20 minutes to read some of these daggone emails, right? Right? Someone sent you something, that you have to go through. What you're going to do is plug that into your actual calendar. And that is the 4D mechanism by which you work your reactive time block. Okay, so here's another exercise. I want you to pause this recording. I want you to go into your email. I want you to take some time. I want you to clear out 25 emails out of your box using that method. Using the 4D method. Go ahead and do that now. All right, number one, just design Monday. Okay. Don't think about, oh my gosh, I got to do all these blocks over and over. I got to do these. I got to do proactive and reactive. And now I got to schedule family time. And like, what happens with this? What happens with that? Don't overthink it. Okay. Remember, you only have to plan one day. Plan one perfect day. So I want you to go to your calendar, pick whatever that next Monday is. Okay. I want you to plan for that Monday. I want you to plan what time you're going to wake up. I want you to plan what your first block is going to be, right? I want you to plan what your second block, and so on and so forth. Plan your family time, plan your recharge time, plan these times in here. Okay. And I can't emphasize enough, make sure you get that recharge time in there. So many people will plug all their calendar up and they don't have time for lunch. They don't have time for family. They don't have time for really the things that are more important, or they're recharging themselves. Okay. So make sure that you plug in your lunch time into your calendar. Make sure you plug in your recharge time. That is so important as well. Okay. So plan out one day, just one day is all I'm asking. You plan out one day. Now, the beauty behind using your Google Calendar or using whatever calendar that it is that you're using is that you have the ability now to just duplicate that on Tuesday. And if Monday was a perfect day and you duplicate that on Tuesday, and you duplicate that on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, and on Friday, and on Saturday, guess what? Now you have an incredible week planned for yourself where you're really going to start to see some lift and some true progress towards the achievement of your goal. So remember, you only have to plan the perfect day once and then just hit it on repeat. Okay, now, during the reactive block, this is where the procrastination monster comes out to play. The procrastination monster comes out. He starts telling you, oh, just wait on that, or oh, just punt that down the road. Do you want to know how to kill the procrastination monster once and for all? I'm going to give you a weapon. I'm going to give you a weapon that's going to kill the procrastination monster once and for all. If you're ready, say I'm ready. Type it in the chat. Say I'm ready. Okay. So if you want to kill the procrastination monster, there's one surefire way to do it. That is, do it now, right? So what I mean by that is you want to get started. You can just procrastinate on the procrastination. That's what I like to call this, right? I call it the procrastinate on the procrastination. So what happens is, and the way to circumvent this is that when you feel that procrastination monster coming up in the back of your mind saying, oh my gosh, it's going to take so long, I'll do it next week. What I want you to do is I want you to schedule in your calendar 15 minutes, just a 15-minute block to get started on that task. That's it. 15 minutes to get started on that task. And I want you to write that into the description of what you're doing. Get started on X project, right? Whatever that project is. What you will find, and what every single leader, every executive that I've ever shared this with has found, is how it is mind-blowing. When you put in there 15 minutes to get started on this, and then you commit to it and you actually do that 15 minutes to get started on that task, you keep going, right? You keep going to 20 minutes and 30 minutes and 45 minutes. And before you know it, like you're halfway done, if not entirely done with that project in your work block. Okay. So that is the key to killing the procrastination monster, is just saying, okay, fine. I will procrastinate on that later. You procrastinate the procrastination. Say, listen, I will procrastinate, but I'll procrastinate later. Right now, I'm going to take 15 minutes to get the project started. Put that 15-minute block on your calendar, start that, and the momentum itself will carry you through the project. By the time you look up, you'll be a third of the way done. You'll have the rough draft done, right? Or you'll have the whole thing done, or half of it done, right? You'll have more done than you ever could have imagined. And then you'll look up and say, man, all I got to do is put the finishing touches on this thing, right? I'm almost there. That is the magic button to finally overcome that procrastination monster. And finally, number 1, tech. Utilize tech. You have to get used to utilizing tech in order to help you to become more effective, more productive. I'll go over a few of the little tech things that I utilize on a day-to-day basis, but I'm going to start with an ecosystem. Okay. One of the things that will eat up a ton of time that you're not even calibrating for, if you're not paying attention to it, is operating on different operating systems. And what I mean by that is I use Apple for everything. And it's not an endorsement for Apple. There's no like sponsored links or nothing like that. Like, chill out, right? But I'm just speaking from a pure efficiency standpoint. And maybe Android has the same kind of Android ecosystem. Doesn't matter, right? But what I recommend is picking one or the other, because what happens is it's so easy. Like, for an example, right? I use an iPad. Okay. I take notes on my iPad. It's instantly available on my notes because I'm using a Mac, right? It's instantly available also if I'm my calendar, I can drag and drop, as I've shown you now, with my email over into my calendar, right? Or I can drag and drop from my to-do list over into my calendar, right? My iCalendar. Everything is just designed to work together fluidly, okay? If I'm on a website, I can get up and leave, and it's all of a sudden on my phone, right? I can continue exactly where I left off. It's called the handoff feature, right? And all of these things are really designed to work together. Okay. We talked about already, the Apple Watch is designed to work with the headphones. It just everything just works more productively and effectively. And it doesn't cost you time, doesn't cost you frustration, doesn't cost you, hey, where is this? And I got to find this third-party tool. And this is not applicable to this. And this is only in the cloud. And I got to have an app for that. And like, it can be a huge distraction, and it can cost you productivity, because it's one of those things that causes brain bandwidth, when if you had one ecosystem or the other, you wouldn't have to even think about it. Everything just works seamlessly. So go all in, choose an ecosystem, and go all in with that one. That's my recommendation as we're talking about which one. Okay, so as we're talking about tools, ChatGPT, or Chad as I like to call him, or around our house we call him Chad. ChatGPT. Hey Chad, hey, go ask Chad about that, right? So I call him Chad. So I recommend ChatGPT. We talked about already how much of a huge time savings that can be, especially now with the screen shots that you can take. By the way, I do recommend, I have an MX Master. That's me breaking my own rule, right? The only exception to my entire ecosystem is Logitech. They formulate their stuff so well with the Apple ecosystem that it might as well be right from Apple. But the reason I mentioned that, I use the MX Master mouse as well as the keyboard. Why do I do that? Again, not a commercial, but it has programmable buttons, programmable features. I can click a button and take a screenshot. I can click a button and do all kinds of stuff, right? I can program what the buttons do. I can push a button, and by the way, ChatGPT pops up, right? So there's a lot of different programmable things you can do. And that's why I use this, because I use ChatGPT so much. I'll just take a screenshot of something, then drop it in ChatGPT with 2 buttons. I take take a picture, drop it in GPT, and then I say, hey, help me out with this, right? And then it'll do that. So again, just different things that you can utilize on a day-to-day basis to make your life that much easier and get some more time leverage. Again, we've already talked about the timer that I utilize. I love this much more than trying to use a phone or something like that. It works a little bit better because I can leave my phone outside so it's not distracting me. We talked already, again, as we're talking about some of the ecosystem stuff. Let me share with you, I love Apple Notes. Okay, Apple Notes is an incredible tool because it has a huge amount of functionality. I also use it for now voice memos. You can take voice memos and put them right in the app. So whether you need to write something, I can use a pen. Whether I need to type something, and I can link and do all the PDFs and all the visuals and things like that as well. As well as now they have the tool that allows me to record voice messages right in there as well, which of course then you drop into ChatGPT and everywhere else. So absolutely love the Notes app. And again, it's native to Apple, so I don't have to think or find different stuff. And then finally, the Reminders app. Okay, as we're talking about the ecosystem, the Reminders app is incredible. And a lot of folks don't even know that you can use your Reminders apps as almost like a project management software as well. So it has a project management mode, and I'll show you what that looks like here. It's really cool. So you can see here on my screen, this is the Reminders app, but when you turn it sideways or you go into project management mode, it's pretty cool. So what you go to is up here at the top where you see view. You want to view it not as a list as you normally would a reminder, but you go to columns. And when you go to columns, you can actually create different columns. So if I had a social media script as an example, or a social media sort of project to do, I would first come up with ideas, right, for different content that I wanted to generate. So idea 1, and then we may do idea 2, and then idea 3, and then idea 4. Okay. So these are your ideas, and then you can actually take those ideas and what's the next step in your social media process? I need to develop a script for those things. So you can drop it over there and develop a script now. Okay. And then once the script is done, then you need to go into the recording mode, right? So now you need to actually record these things. And then once you've recorded them, you can add a new one, right? That says maybe it's time to edit. All right. And then after you edit, you got to do what? QC. Maybe you go back and quality control the edit. And then once the QC is done, you want to actually post it. And then you want to, once it's posted, let's say that you want to engage, or and then finally, check your KPIs. So you're tracking your analytics to see how that post performed. So once you've recorded it, then you drop it over into the edit box, right? And you can have multiple things, right? So let's say this one, I'm still working on the script for. This one I've already recorded, it was quick. And this one over here is in the edit bay. Once it's out of edit, this one has already been edited. Now it's in QC. And then from there, that one moves over to be posted. Once it's been posted, right? And if you got an admin, obviously they're sharing the same screen with you. So, and you can give them the access to this specific page within your reminders. But it's a great way to sort of be able to track without needing a separate project management software. Like we talked about, yes, there's great stuff out there. There's Trello, there's Monday.com. There's a lot of different project management softwares out there, but why not go with what's already baked into the Apple ecosystem? And again, if you want to share it, you can always share it with individuals that are within your organization, right? So if you have a VA or whatnot, you can share that. So really cool feature that a lot of folks don't know, and it can help you be a lot more effective, a lot more productive and efficient with your time. All right, so the final task here, what I would love to see you do is, now that you downloaded Chad, I know you got Chad on your computer. Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to hit pause on this when I say go, and then you're going to take a screenshot of a email that's in your mailbox right now, one of the ones that you are going to need to defer for later, right? I want you to take a screenshot of that, then I want you to paste that into ChatGPT and give it a little context and ask it to write you a response. All right, go ahead and do that now. Okay, so hopefully today has been an incredible use of your time. Now that we know and we've re-perceived how valuable time is and how much time you spent today with me, I truly appreciate it, and I hope that you got some value. If you did, or if you want to see a part 2, drop part 2 down in the chat. If you got some value out of this and you'd love to see a part 2, listen, we listen to you. We want to give you the value. We want to give you what you need to take your business to the next level. So if you want to see a part 2, I know a lot of things I talked about were high level. If you want to go deeper, if you want to go sort of any specific way, I'm happy to speak to any of those things. So give me a part 2 in the chat if you want to see a part 2. Other than that, I hope you got some tools, some tricks, some hacks that will really help you take your business to the next level. And remember, you can have your goal or you can have your excuse, but you can't have both, right? So there's a million ways to make this work for you, for your lifestyle, for your business, for your goals. Okay. Are you looking for a reason to make this work in your business? Are you looking for a reason to utilize these tools? Is your goal, is your dream, right? Is your success worth figuring out a way to make some of these things work in your business? Or would you rather have the excuse on why you can't do it, right? You choose. And so I hope that you truly got value out of this. I want to hear from you. You know where to reach me. If you're with EXP, I'm a workplace chat away, or maybe a Slack away by the time this comes out, but I'm super excited to hear from you. I would love to hear how you have adapted these tools, these tricks, these hacks to your business and how you made it work. And I would love to hear some of the success stories. Hit me on Workplace, hit me on Slack. Until next time, take care.